Gospel and Homily for the Feast of the Epiphany, Year B. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. After Jesus had been born at Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod, some wise men came to Jerusalem from the east. "Where is the infant King of the Jews?" they asked. "We saw his star as it rose and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was perturbed, and so was the whole of Jerusalem. He called together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people and inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. "At Bethlehem in Judea," they told him, "for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, you are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you will come a leader who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod summoned the wise men to see him privately. He asked them the exact date on which the star had appeared, and he sent them on to Bethlehem. "Go and find out all about the child," he said, "and when you have found him, let me know so that I too may go and do him homage." Having listened to what the king had to say, they set out. And there in front of them was the star they had seen rising. It went forward and halted over the place where the child was. The sight of the star filled them with delight, and going into the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and falling to their knees, they did him homage. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him the gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. But they were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, and they returned to their own country by a different way. The Gospel of the Lord. St. Luke positions the birth of Christ in the context of Imperial Rome and world events. Caesar Augustus, for instance, ordered a census of the whole world to be taken. His birth will have worldwide cosmic significance. He is the light of all the nations. In their search, the wise men were guided by the light of a star. Today's feast represents all those who are guided by the light of faith and reason to seek what is true. Truth is not presented to us on a plate. We have to seek and search for it like the wise men did. We know the church teaches the truth about our salvation, but we need to take that truth on board if it's to have a bearing on how we live in the here and now. Ultimately, like the wise men, Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and will of course be the object of our search. The Epiphany also represents those who follow the light of conscience, which needs to be illumined by the light of reason and faith. There are many people, some of whom we might know, who are indifferent towards all things religious. However, we've all got a conscience, whether religious or not. It's the voice of God within. Now, some people we know have put their conscience in cold storage. We may ignore our conscience, but it won't ignore us. An ignored conscience has a strange way of resurfacing in other ways in our lives. Those who come to Mass each Sunday are given the opportunity to have their consciences more finely tuned, as it were, by gospel truth, certainly more than those who never darken the door of a church. The danger is that many who are schooled in the ways of the world will form their conscience on public opinion alone and be led astray. St. Augustine writes, "Wrong is wrong, even though everyone is doing it. Right is right, even though nobody is doing it." Now this is where Herod, I believe, enters the scene. Yes, he was interested in finding out the whereabouts of the baby Jesus, but for sinister reasons. The light of the world, even as a baby, was already a threat to him, and so he sets about extinguishing it. But the ghost of Herod lives on. Is there anyone whom we mistakenly perceive to be a threat to us that we'd like out of the way? A bit like Herod. The baby in the womb, for instance, God forbid, might become for some misguided souls an inconvenience, hampering their future plans. Plans, might I add, that have no place for God. The same misguided reasoning could underpin the euthanasia debate. The right to die, like so many people talk about these days. Now that right to die for some may be seen by others as a duty to die, especially if they feel in the way and unloved. Yes, the spirit of Herod does live on. The light, which is Jesus, came into the world, but men had shown that they preferred the darkness. On one occasion, Jesus actually weeps over Jerusalem because people had snubbed his saving message. And we can conclude from this that even though we have the light of faith and reason to guide us, there is no guarantee we'll act in accordance with any of these. The Magi opened their treasures. Perhaps our treasure to Jesus for 2024 will be to focus the eyes of our minds more resolutely on Jesus, the light of the world, and live by his truth. In this way, we share in his epiphany and become a light to the world in which we live. Thank you all for listening. God bless you all, and a happy new year to everyone.